Hi there, students. Analogue. Well, first question is the spelling. To me as a Brit, it's analogue, L-O-G-U-E. But I was quite shocked to discover the Americans just spell it analog, A-N-A-L-O-G. Now, analog can be a noun or an adjective. Let's see, to start with, if one thing is an analogue of another, it's similar. It's an analogy of something else. An analogy is where two situations are similar, the same ratios. There is an equivalence between two things. So this situation today is an analogue of a situation that happened to me several years ago. So it's here analogue. If one situation is an analogue of another, they are similar. There is a lot of similarity between them. Now, usually we use this word analogue to talk about something that is not digital, something that is pre-digital technology. So, for example, you could have a camera, an analog photography. This analog photography is where you take the photo and the photo is projected onto a film in the back of the camera, and then you go and get it printed. It's not the digital photograph from your digital camera. An analog camera is one that takes real physical photographs. Or if you have a camera that is analog, you're going to have to put a video capture device in your computer to be able to use it. Analog photography is coming back into fashion. Or what about music? Okay, a CD is digital. Numbers. Digital is numbers. Digital is ones and zeros. But a vinyl record, or one of these old tapes, is analog. On the vinyl record, you put a needle and the needle vibrates as it goes over the vinyl. And that is the sound which is then amplified. Okay, so the vinyl is an analog recording. So you have an analog camera and a modern digital camera. An analog recording is made by changing sound waves into electrical signals, whereas a digital signal is just ones and zeros, and that's what makes it very different. With televisions, television used to be broadcast using an analog broadcast, but that changed to digital. And nowadays, if you want to use one of those old television sets, you're going to have to use a digital converter, something to change the analogical signal into something digital. A watch, a clock. It's quite unusual today to have an analog clock or watch. Mostly they are digital. You know, the ones you have with numbers and you put the battery in and the numbers change. That's a digital clock. Whereas if you have something that you wind and it goes round, that is an old-fashioned analog watch or an analog alarm clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Notice, clocks today don't go tick-tock at all. They are digital. They don't make any noise at all. Okay, so analog. firstly, something that is similar to something else, or something that could be used instead of something else. So I don't know, in cooking, you can use gelatine, or agar agar gum is a good analog of gelatine. Apparently, there was a creature called a protopterapid, many millions of years ago, which was an analog to the modern penguin. Okay, so analog TV, analog radio, an analog phone signal. The old phones used to be analog, but now all telephones are digital. So analog is using numbers, ones and zeros, rather than an analogic system, an analog system, where there is one thing is converted into another. So analog, an analog clock, an analog equipment, analog instruments. I'm thinking of a synthesizer, analog radio, an analog sound, analog signal. Okay, so this is an analog. If one thing is an analog of another, they are similar in some way. One is a representation of the other. So a conversion from analog to digital data will be needed. A slide rule is a simple analog computer. I know how to use a slide rule. I wonder how many of you out there know how to use a slide rule, or even what a slide rule is. Okay, so perhaps no model that you put together can ever be a perfect analog of nature itself. The information on an ordinary vinyl record is analog. So analog, perhaps analog computing as well. That's very old-fashioned. Okay, so something that it's not digital. It's not ones and zeros. Analog formality. I would give this a 5.5 in formality, but you use everywhere. And then it comes from, well, originally from ancient Greek, analogos, proportionate, ana, up to, and logos, ratio. So analog is talking about ratios. So analog,